Story number 1. Unsolved Mysteries, the disappearance of Bus 309, the 3 a.m. bus route. The air grew chilly as the crimson hue of sunset slowly gave way to a moonlit night. As a curious young filmmaker in 2001, my team and I decided to uncover the chilling mystery of Bus 309 that seemed to have captured the imagination of many in our suburban town. Rumors persisted about a bus, a phantom vehicle of sorts, that only appeared at 3 a.m. Most brushed it off as urban legend, but stories persisted of passengers who never returned. I assembled my team: Jenna, a skeptical journalist always seeking the truth; Rob, our techie and night vision specialist; Maya, an expert in paranormal activities and exorcism; and Jake, our fearless driver. Our first lead was Hannah, a local resident whose sister had boarded the 3 a.m. bus a few years prior, never to be seen again. "My sister, Emily, always was a daredevil," Hannah whispered, voice shaking. She wanted to debunk the myth, but she never came back. Hannah provided us with a crucial piece of information: the last known route of Bus 309. As we followed the path, we came across an old mansion rumored to be the meeting spot for devil worshippers. Maya, sensing a paranormal presence, urged us to investigate. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy. Jenna captured EVP readings, whisperings of unexplained voices that sent shivers down our spines. "They're still here," one voice murmured. Rob's night vision picked up strange apparitions, silhouettes of passengers waiting. Venturing deeper, we stumbled upon old newspaper articles detailing a tragic event in 1975. A bus, carrying young passengers, had met a deadly accident, with survivors recounting seeing scary ghosts and unexplained deaths. This very mansion was where they had sought refuge, only to be entrapped by devil worshippers, sealing their doomed fate. Maya, disturbed, revealed her own connection: "I came across exorcism deaths related to this event. Souls forever trapped in liminality, unable to move on due to the twisted rituals that took place here." Jake, suddenly pale, admitted, "My grandfather was the driver that night. He always warned me of the route, mentioning how the worshippers had cursed it to relive the night eternally." Our search led us to an old bus yard. And there it was, Bus 309, decayed by time but still radiating malevolence. Jenna dared to board, only to be confronted by ghostly passengers and Emily's spirit, still trapped. As 3 a.m. approached, the bus roared to life, ready to claim new victims. Desperate, Maya began an exorcism ritual, hoping to free the trapped souls. Rob, Jenna, and I joined in, reciting verses that echoed through the night. The ground shook, ghostly apparitions screamed, and just as quickly as it began, silence fell. The sun began to rise, and Bus 309 was no more. The souls trapped had finally found peace. However, our tale was not over. As we shared our findings, many doubted our story. Some nights, in the distance, a bus's eerie horn can still be heard, hinting at the unspeakable horrors that once took place. And so, as we concluded our documentary, we posed a question to our viewers: would you dare take a ride on the 3 a.m. bus route? Story number 2. Unsolved Mysteries, the disappearance of Bus 309, the disappearing bus stop. The year was 2002, and the memory of that autumn's investigation clings to me like the stubborn fog that clung to the streets of our small suburban town. We were a group of young enthusiasts, bonded by our passion for the paranormal and the unexplained. There was Lucas, the historian with an encyclopedic knowledge of urban legends; Sarah, who was convinced the afterlife communicated through her camera lens; Derek, the audio wizard who could catch a ghost's whisper in a thunderstorm; and myself, Casey, the one who always had the feeling that the world was brimming with secrets just waiting to be discovered. Our project was to document the peculiar tale of a bus stop on Elm Street, where people were seen waiting but, according to bewildered locals, were never seen leaving. Some claimed it was the last known location where passengers of the infamous Bus 309 had been picked up before vanishing into thin air. We started by interviewing the locals. Mr. Thompson, the antique shop owner, spoke of shadows that lingered long after the people had left. "They're waiting for something that ain't coming back," he said with a hollow look in his eyes. Then there was Miss Clara, the librarian, who whispered, "The air gets thick there, heavy with words unsaid and goodbyes never uttered." Our nighttime investigation was met with the foreboding silence of an otherwise normal bus stop. Sarah set up her camera, and Derek had his audio equipment at the ready. Lucas nervously fingered through his notes, while I could feel the palpable tension in the air. As the clock neared 3 a.m., Sarah's camera started to pick up strange orbs, and Derek's audio equipment captured a distant rumbling that resembled a bus engine, yet no vehicle was in sight. Then, the temperature plummeted, and the streetlights flickered erratically. We saw them, apparitions of people sitting in the shelter, their faces expressionless and eyes void of life. I could barely breathe as one looked directly at me, mouthing a silent plea. Sarah's camera captured it all, figures that weren't there a second ago, the bench worn from decades of use, suddenly bearing the imprints of these spectral passengers. Derek's audio caught a cacophony of whispers, overlapping and urgent, speaking of a ritual gone wrong and an invocation that bound them to this place. In a moment of dread and determination, Lucas recited an ancient charm he'd found in his research, a counterspell to break whatever held these souls here. As he spoke, the air shimmered around us, and the spirits began to fade, one by one, releasing sighs like the final notes of a requiem. When dawn broke, the bus stop was just a bus stop once more. Yet, the footage and recordings told a different story, a tale of a cursed route where those who waited were never meant to leave. To this day, I wonder about the souls we encountered, the spirits that had been bound to a perpetual wait for a ride that would never arrive. And whenever 3 a.m. nears, I find myself drawn to the window, looking out towards Elm Street, half expecting to see the spectral glow of a bus stop where the boundary between worlds is thin, and the lost are waiting still. As the video ends, the screen fades to black with the text, "Do you believe in the bus stop where passengers never leave?" Would you wait at the disappearing bus stop at 3 a.m.? Story number 3. Unsolved Mysteries, the disappearance of Bus 309, trapped on the endless ride. It was the fall of 2003, and the sky was painted with the bruised purples and oranges of an oncoming storm. It's been years, yet the memories cling to me, unshakable like the cold that seeped into my bones that night. My name is Alex, and I was once a passenger on Bus 309, the bus that never stops. Our story began when my college friends and I, all aspiring filmmakers, decided to create a documentary exploring the local legend of Bus 309, a bus fabled to trap its passengers in an endless loop. Our crew consisted of Mia, a bright-eyed animation artist, Tyler, our sound and editing wizard, Natalie, a drama student who loved to act out reenactments, and me, the one holding the camera, documenting it all. We boarded the bus on a dare, laughing away the old wives' tales of an endless journey from which passengers never disembarked. The first loop was uneventful, a mundane route through the sleepy suburbs. But as we approached the second loop, the laughter died in our throats. Passengers that had been there on the first loop were now different. Their eyes were hollow, their movements robotic. Natalie whispered, "They're not alive, not really," her voice barely concealing her fear. By the third loop, the air turned frigid. Mia's animations, intended to bring lightness to our documentary, now depicted the creeping dread that overtook us. Shadows twisted into grotesque figures, and the lights flickered, casting the interior into a strobe-like nightmare. Tyler's sound equipment picked up a chilling undercurrent, a sound like whispering, as if the bus itself was alive with the voices of the damned. I remember the desperation as we pulled on the stop request cord, but the bus trudged on, indifferent to our panic. We were trapped in a cycle of horror that intensified with each loop, revealing glimpses of unspeakable events that had occurred over the years. The driver, a silent specter, never acknowledged us, his eyes fixed on a road that seemed to stretch into infinity. Through the camera's viewfinder, I watched in horror as each of us began to fade, becoming part of the bus's cursed landscape. Tyler's recordings now filled with the sounds of past passengers' screams, a haunting cacophony of terror. Mia's animations became our grim reality, depicting us as skeletal figures trapped on an endless ride. It was Natalie who discovered the secret, the heart of the horror. In a moment of lucidity, she found an old, worn book wedged between the seats, filled with devilish incantations and stories of the occult. It spoke of a pact, a deal with dark forces that promised eternal life but delivered an eternity of entrapment on Bus 309. In our final, desperate act, we used the book to perform a reverse incantation, a plea for release. The bus screeched to a halt, a sound that tore through the fabric of the night, and we fled into the cold, early morning light. Now, I'm the last of us left. Mia's animations have gained her posthumous fame, and Tyler's recordings are played in hushed tones by those brave enough to listen. Natalie vanished without a trace, a final act in our tragic play. As I narrate this story, my memories materialize into the documentary we never got to finish. I invite viewers to witness the chilling events on Bus 309 through our animations and reenactments, ending with a question that haunts me still. If the bus came for you, would you be able to escape, or would you be trapped on the endless ride? Story number 4. Unsolved Mysteries. The Disappearance of Bus 309, the haunted bus of Route 666. In the year 2004, a quiet suburb in the United States became the breeding ground for a series of chilling events that would haunt the memories of those involved for years to come. My name is Eva, and what I witnessed, along with my friends, transformed our fascination with the paranormal into an obsession that nearly cost us our lives. We were a tight-knit group of young documentary filmmakers, drawn to the dark and unexplained. Jasper, with his flair for historical research, Lila, our stoic tech genius, Marcus, a journalist with a nose for the truth, and I, Eva, the director who steered our course into the heart of darkness. Our mockumentary project centered on the infamously numbered Route 666, where Bus 309 was last seen. Locals spoke of the bus in hushed tones, some claiming it was a harbinger of doom, while others simply crossed themselves at its mention. We collected grainy historical footage that showed a normal bus route turning sinister, with each frame increasing in intensity. News reports interrupted by static filled the screen, with anchors reporting on the mysterious disappearances associated with Bus 309. Interviews with survivors, if one could call them that, were the most harrowing. They spoke of feeling a deep chill upon stepping onto the bus, seeing passengers whose eyes were void of anything human. One man, a former driver, spoke in a quavering voice, "The road, it never ends, and they never age." Our own investigation began innocuously. I remember driving to the start of Route 666 as the sunset bled into twilight. The bus appeared exactly at midnight, its form emerging from the thickening mist. We boarded with our equipment, hearts pounding in our chests. The first few stops were uneventful, but as the night deepened, a sense of dread settled over us. Lila's tech gadgets began to malfunction, emitting eerie blips that seemed to communicate with the dimly lit bus interior. Marcus captured an interview with a woman who claimed she had been riding the bus for years, trying to reach her destination. Her ageless face and distant gaze suggested a soul disconnected from time. Jasper uncovered old newspapers detailing a series of exorcism deaths linked to the very seats we occupied. Whispers of devil worship underpinned the history of Route 666, and it seemed Bus 309 was the physical manifestation of this cursed legacy. The turning point came when we attempted to document the full route. The bus looped endlessly, and with each pass, our surroundings became more nightmarish. Phantoms of previous passengers appeared in the seats, spectral figures reenacting their last moments over and over. I was walking down the aisle, camera in hand, when I stumbled upon an arcane symbol scratched into the bus floor. The realization hit us then. The bus was a vessel for something ancient and malevolent, trapped in a loop by its own insatiable appetite for souls. In a desperate act, we combined our skills to disrupt the cycle. Lila engineered a power surge, Jasper recited incantations from his historical texts, and Marcus broadcast a live plea for intervention. As for me, I channeled our experience into a compelling narrative, hoping to break the spell by exposing it to the world. Dawn broke as we found ourselves standing beside the road, the bus gone as if it had never been. We had our footage, a harrowing tale of survival against the paranormal. Now, as the documentary concludes, I pose a final, chilling question to the audience: the haunted bus of Route 666, legend, or a dire warning to those who dare to venture where they do not belong? Story number 5. Unsolved Mysteries, the Disappearance of Bus 309. Messages from the Beyond, Bus Radio Phantoms. The air was crisp, the kind of chill that tells you winter is whispering secrets to the fall, begging it to sleep. I'm Levi, and in 2005, my curiosity and I led a group of friends into an abyss that left us forever altered. We were in our 20s, unmarked by life's deepest scars, hungry for a glimpse into the unknown. Holly, a skeptic turned believer; Ryan, an audio technician obsessed with frequencies beyond our understanding; Sophie, a spiritual medium whose gift was both a blessing and a curse; and me, armed with a camcorder, determined to document what we found. Our objective was simple yet profoundly ambitious: to capture evidence of the electronic voice phenomena, EVP, associated with Bus 309, the phantom bus that had been the centerpiece of countless urban legends. I remember driving to the old bus depot, the building's crumbling facade a testament to forgotten times. We had heard that the bus radios still functioned, sometimes picking up signals that defied explanation. We walked through the depot, the silence so thick you could feel it pressing against your ears. The decrepit buses sat like slumbering beasts, their radios crackling to life as we passed. I happened to me, a voice, whispering my name through the static. It was a siren call I couldn't ignore. With Ryan's expertise, we set up our equipment, tuning into the frequencies of the radios. The static was a cacophony of whispers and cries, but amidst the noise, there were moments of unnerving clarity. Holly's eyes were wide as the camera caught her reaction to a voice that said, "Don't leave us," in a tone that suggested endless despair. Sophie was our anchor to the other side, her presence an open invitation. She sat, trance-like, as the EVP recordings grew more fervent. "They're coming through," she said, her voice trembling. "The veil is thin here." We gathered around the radio of Bus 309, the one bus that remained shrouded in tales of terror. The air around it was colder, the shadows deeper. As Ryan adjusted the frequencies, we heard it, a voice that sounded like it was being torn from the throat of someone long deceased, speaking of rituals and bindings, of souls traded for dark favors. These phantoms of the airwaves, they told us stories of a bus that didn't just transport the living from place to place, but ferried the dead to places unknown. They spoke of a driver who was not a man, but a collector of sorrows, his payment the very breath from your lungs. It was when Sophie began to whisper along with the voices that we knew we had to pull back. She was repeating words of an old, dark language, her eyes rolling back to reveal nothing but white. It took all of us to break the connection, dragging her away from the bus as the radio crackled with what sounded like a chorus of screams. In the aftermath, we were left with recordings that chilled those brave enough to listen. The documentary we produced was interspersed with simulated radio static and reenactments of our terrifying experience. As the final credits roll, I look into the camera, a changed man, and ask the viewers, what messages might the Beyond have for you? And would you dare to listen? Story number 6. Unsolved Mysteries, the Disappearance of Bus 309, the Ghost Conductor. In the early 2000s, the legends whispered about a phantom bus that roamed the roads. But even among those chilling tales, one stood out, the ghost conductor of Bus 309. It was 2006 when I decided to chase this story, to unravel the truth behind the rumors. My name is Alex, and what I encountered still lurks in the corners of my sleep. My crew consisted of Jenna, a driven journalist who could sense a story before it even happened, Marcus, an amateur historian with a fascination for the occult, and Nadia, a tech genius with gadgets that could supposedly detect spectral presences. We were all under 30, all hungry for a taste of the unknown. I was driving my old Jeep, leading us to the heart of the suburb where Bus 309 was last seen. As we arrived, the sunset painted the sky a burning orange, a signal of the night to come. We set our base near the alleged bus stop, a bench that now was nothing more than a relic overgrown with ivy. Marcus shared stories of the ghost conductor, a figure clad in an old uniform, face obscured, who appeared at the stroke of midnight to collect fares from unwary travelers. We interviewed locals, store owners, night shift workers, a retired bus driver who claimed he saw his former colleague in the afterlife. Their stories were all eerily similar, painting a picture of a specter bound to an eternal route. The first sighting on tape came from Jenna's camera. I was reviewing the footage when I saw him, she whispered, showing us the grainy figure of a man by the bench. He was just standing there, and then, he vanished. Nadia's gadgets beeped and flashed erratically as midnight approached. "I've never seen readings like this," she said, eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. Then it happened to me. I saw him, the ghost conductor. He stood at the edge of our circle of light, holding out a hand as if waiting for a ticket. Nadia moved forward, offering a piece of old currency we'd found, a prop for our documentary. The conductor took it, and for a moment, his eyes met mine, a cold dread settling in my chest. The climax of our documentary, and our investigation, came unexpectedly. Jenna had wandered off, following a lead. We found her standing by the bench, a ticket in her hand. "He gave it to me," she said, her voice distant. "Said it's time for the last ride." Before we could react, she walked into the darkness and vanished. The ghost conductor was there 1 second, gone the next, along with Jenna. We searched, called out, but there was no sign of her. The camera, left on the bench, recorded nothing but the night. We reported Jenna missing, but no trace of her was ever found. The documentary aired, concluding with the footage before her disappearance, our call to action a plea for any information. The final scene is one we didn't shoot, a static-filled screen that fades to an image of Jenna, boarding bus 309, a ghostly conductor tipping his hat. The bus drives off into darkness, the chilling sound of its engine a low growl fading into silence. Story number 7. Unsolved Mysteries, the Disappearance of Bus 309, Secrets of the Abandoned Bus Fleet. My name's Liam, and if you're watching this, you're probably like me, drawn to the places that the world has forgotten, looking for answers where questions hang heavy in the silence. In 2007, I was part of a team that aimed to document the forsaken corners of our little-known suburb, but what we found was beyond the scope of any urban decay or graffiti-tagged ruins. We'd heard about the lot, an overgrown field dotted with the rusted skeletons of buses, each one supposedly a remnant of Route 309. The route that vanished along with all its passengers one autumn night. I was behind the wheel, driving down the dirt path with my friends and crewmates Zoe, a freelance photographer with an eye for the macabre, and Tyler, a sound engineer who could hear the whispers of the past in the wind. As we approached, the place looked like a graveyard for giants, metal carcasses sprawled out as far as the drone camera could see. We started filming at dusk, the dying light casting long shadows through the hollowed-out husks of the buses. Zoe captured the eeriness perfectly, her camera gliding through the aisles where nature had reclaimed its territory. Vines snaked over the seats, and somewhere in the distance, the lament of an owl underscored our footage. Tyler had rigged the area with microphones, hoping to catch ambient noises, perhaps even the rumored echoes of passengers who'd never made it home. I was setting up the last recorder when I heard it, Tyler told us later, a laugh, soft and cruel, like it was meant for me alone. We discovered something chilling within Bus 09, the number notoriously missing from the infamous 309. I was walking down the aisle, the floorboards creaking underfoot, when Zoe called out, "Look at this." Scrawled on the back of a seat was a date, the very night bus 309 had disappeared. But it was the seat itself that sent a shiver down my spine. It was warm, as if someone had just risen from it. Night fell, and with it, an oppressive atmosphere settled around us. Our drone footage revealed a figure moving between the buses, too fleeting to be real yet too consistent to be a trick of the light. It happened to me then, a feeling of being watched. I turned to see the reflection of someone sitting behind me in the shattered mirror at the front of bus 09. When I whirled around, the seat was empty, but the temperature had dropped so suddenly, we could see our breath fogging in the air. Our investigation took a sinister turn when we found an altar in the heart of the fleet, surrounded by bus numbers and adorned with symbols that Tyler recognized as sigils used in devil worship. The energy there was thick, charged with a malevolence that our cameras struggled to capture, the footage plagued with inexplicable glitches. We didn't notice Zoe was missing until we heard her scream, a sound so raw it rooted us to the spot. We found her on the altar, eyes wide with fear, whispering of hands that had pulled at her, of voices that promised her an endless journey on bus 309. We fled then, leaving behind our equipment, our documentary unfinished. We reported what happened to Zoe, but by morning, the bus fleet was gone, as if swallowed by the earth itself, no sign of the metal behemoths or the nightmares they housed. To this day, I still hear the echo of that laughter Tyler spoke of, and Zoe, she doesn't take the bus anymore. She says sometimes, late at night, she can still feel the grip of cold hands on her shoulders. Story number 8. Unsolved Mysteries, The Disappearance of Bus 309, Possessed on Public Transit, Episode 1, The Whispering Passenger. It was back in 2008 when I, Alex, landed my first job as a bus driver. Not just any route, mind you, but Route 309, notoriously dubbed the possession pathway. Those who know, avoid it. But to someone like me who needed the money, the eerie tales just seemed like stories. Oh, how wrong I was. Episode 1 opens with grainy CCTV footage. The date stamp reads January 15th, 2008. It's late evening and there are only a handful of passengers. Among them is Clara, a young college student known for her infectious laughter and upbeat personality. I was coming back from my evening class, headphones in, lost in my own world, Clara recalls. The bus takes its usual route, but as it reaches the stretch where urban legends say the possessions occur, her music gets interrupted by whispers. They were saying things. Things no stranger should know. Personal memories, secrets, her voice trembles. The whispers become more incessant, even when she unplugs her headphones. A reenactment shows Clara panicking, looking around to see if anyone else hears them. But everyone seems oblivious, except for one man at the back. His eyes are hollow, staring right at her. She's drawn to him, inexplicably, as if in a trance. And as she approaches, the man mutters a chant, the same chant that Tyler, our resident occult expert, identifies as an old devil-worshipping prayer. The video continues. Clara's demeanor changes. From the bubbly girl she was, she now stands still, mouth agape, and then she speaks in a voice that's not her own, in a language long forgotten. The bus halts. Everyone is now focused on Clara, trying to restrain her as she showcases strength beyond her means. I was driving that night, and it happened to me to witness her eyes, void of any emotion, void of Clara. The clip ends with paramedics arriving, taking Clara away, her screams echoing into the night. But as the bus empties, the man, the catalyst, he's nowhere to be found. The episode's end is marked by my narrative. I had driven bus 309 for many nights after, encountering stories too bizarre, too real. This was just the beginning. As the screen fades, the teaser for episode 2 plays, a snippet of an interview with a therapist. She speaks about a young man, always in the last seat, who seems to take over people. The chilling last frame? A pair of hollow eyes in the bus's rearview mirror. The screen goes black, and the call to action appears. Dare to continue this journey? Subscribe now for next week's chilling encounter on Bus 309. Every episode released thereafter ends with a cliffhanger, ensuring viewers are left in suspense, eager to return to unravel the mysteries of Route 309. Story number 9. Unsolved Mysteries. The Disappearance of Bus 309, the bus that never arrived. Part 1, The Last Departure. I remember the chill of that January morning in 2009, the frost painting ghostly patterns on my car's windshield as I drove towards the edge of our sleepy suburb. The dawn light was just a whisper against the dark sky. I was on my way to meet Jenna, a local journalist eager to crack the case of Bus 309, the bus that never arrived. The first episode opens with a haunting montage of Bus 309's last recorded journey through the CCTV cameras dotting the route. Then, it vanishes, just as it passes a dense thicket by the roadside, the screen filled with static before going blank. It was supposed to be a routine trip, I recount, staring into the camera with a mix of fear and determination. The narration weaves through interviews with the families of the missing passengers, each sharing their disbelief and heartache. Our investigation leads us to an archaic library where we meet Eli, a historian with a penchant for the occult. He unfolds a tattered map from 2009, pointing to a series of strange symbols that line the path of the bus. These mark sites of historical tragedies, Eli explains, but together, they form a pattern. Dramatic reenactments accompany the revelation. A group of friends boards the bus, laughing and unaware of the journey ahead. Among them is Mike, a college athlete, and Sarah, an aspiring artist. They sit together, their conversation drowned out by the hum of the engine. As the bus drives off, viewers see a shadow flit past the windows, too quick to be identified. The friends' laughter turns to confusion, then panic, as the bus lurches unexpectedly, its lights flickering. Back in the present, Jenna and I exchange a look of realization. The camera pans to a dusty book Eli has presented, its pages filled with accounts of exorcism deaths and unexplained vanishings dating back centuries, all occurring along the bus's route. The screen splits, showing viewers the map with the bus's last known coordinates. A voiceover invites them to join us as we uncover the clues and piece together the mystery of Bus 309. The episode ends on a haunting note, with audio from the bus's black box. A distorted voice speaks in tongues, a chilling countdown, and then silence. Part 1 fades out, urging viewers to subscribe and comment with your theories on what might have happened to Bus 309 and its passengers. In the following episodes, each new piece of evidence, a survivor's watch, a cryptic diary entry found at the roadside, and eerie EVP recordings, serves as a puzzle piece, a mystery box clue that deepens the intrigue and spurs viewer engagement, driving them to return, eager for the next installment of the chilling saga. Story number 10. Unsolved Mysteries. The Disappearance of Bus 309, The Last Seat. It was a series that became my obsession, stories woven into the fabric of urban legends that I couldn't shake off. As a YouTuber with a channel dedicated to the macabre, it was the perfect, unexplored terrain. I was drawn to the tale like a moth to a flame, the cursed last seat of Bus 309. I remember the night vividly when I decided to take the investigation further. The idea came to me as I was driving home, my mind replaying the interviews with trembling survivors, recounting horrors that befell those who sat in the last seat of various buses across the globe. Each story was more unsettling than the last. The first tale was of Anna, a college student from Japan, who disappeared without a trace after sitting in the last seat. Then came the story of Alex, a London musician, found motionless in the last seat, an expression of sheer terror permanently etched on his face. No cause of death was ever established. For weeks, my team and I curated these chilling accounts, animating reconstructions, enhancing audio clips, anything to immerse our viewers into the spine-chilling reality. The viewer retention was off the charts, People were both terrified and fascinated. But the true horror began when we decided to push the boundaries. What if I take the last seat? I posed the question to my viewers, the decision made on a reckless impulse to boost the series finale. The episode was to be streamed live, a night ride on an infamous bus route in a forgotten suburb of the United States, its number, eerily enough, 309. Tyler, an eager intern, my cameraman, and I boarded the bus as the sun dipped below the horizon. The passengers were few, shadows of their former selves, each absorbed in their own world. The last seat, a patchwork of frayed fabric and ominous stains, awaited me. I remember the unease as I sat down, Tyler's camera live streaming my every move. The bus began its journey, the familiar hum of the engine a sinister lullaby. I recounted past events, narrating the unsolved mysteries that haunted this very seat. As we drove, strange occurrences began to unfold, lights flickered, passengers whispered in hushed, anxious tones, and a cold draft swept through despite the windows being shut. Tyler, behind the lens, captured it all, his hands barely trembling. It wasn't until we reached the outskirts that the true terror began. A dense fog enveloped the bus as the temperature dropped. Then, static crackled through the bus radio, interspersed with what sounded like whispers. I remember the fear gripping my chest, my breaths coming out in misty plumes. The bus suddenly lurched, veering off the mapped route, and that's when we heard it, a voice, guttural and dripping with malice, emanating from the radio, speaking in a language we couldn't comprehend. The screen on Tyler's camera flickered, a distorted face briefly appearing over my shoulder before vanishing. Panic set in, the passengers' whispers crescendoing into cries. The driver, his face obscured by the rearview mirror, continued on, oblivious or indifferent to our plight. I was frozen, my voice a mere whisper, "This is real, it's happening to us." The live stream was a flurry of chaotic movement and terrified faces, the viewership numbers soaring, comments flooding and urging us to get off the bus. But it was too late. The bus seemed to have a will of its own, the last stop an unknown destination. As we approached what looked like an old bridge, an apparition appeared, a shadowy conductor, demanding a fare for passage. His hand extended towards me, a portal of darkness beckoning from his palm. The screen went black. When the feed returned, the bus was empty, save for Tyler, his camera now on the floor, its lens cracked, the last seat empty but for a faint outline of where I had been. The episode concluded abruptly, Tyler's final words, "She's gone," reverberating through the static as the stream ended. To this day, the disappearance of the host of the last seat remains an unsolved mystery, a chilling addition to the cursed lore of Bus 309. The series remains, a haunting testament to the horrors that unfolded, a story that began as a quest for high retention and ended with an author who vanished, leaving behind a legacy of terror that continues to captivate and horrify viewers around the world.